Welcome to the Corporate Baddie, where ambitious women own their power and lead with authenticity. I'm your host, Jen Werner, bringing you real talk on navigating the corporate world with confidence and style. From career wins to lessons learned, we're diving into leadership, growth, and everything it takes to be a true baddie in business. Welcome back, everybody, to the Corporate Baddie, where we spotlight powerhouse women who are reshaping the media and advertising world with grit, vision, and ambition. Today's guest is no exception. I'm thrilled to welcome Brandi Watkins, a senior marketing executive with over 18 years experience leading the charge on advertising strategies that don't just build brands, they drive real business results. She's a visionary leader who transforms insights into action, builds high-performing teams, and delivers executional excellence at scale. Brandi has managed multi-million-dollar budgets and developed campaigns for some of the most recognizable names in the game. We're talking about Verizon, AT&T, Lenovo, NBA, Ocean Spray, Carter's, Warner Brothers, and more. Whether agency side or brand side, Brandi has brought creativity, clarity, and consistency to every role she's taken on. She's currently leading media and digital marketing strategy at Carter's, and I can't wait for you to hear her journey and the lessons she picked up as a true corporate baddie. Please help me welcome Brandi. All right. Welcome, Brandi, to the show. Thank you for joining us today on this beautiful spring day in Atlanta.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. Well, we're really excited that you're here too. And I think the best place to start for our audience is really just kind of understanding how you got into marketing and a little bit about your career journey.
Yeah, so I actually went to school at Georgia Southern, and I got my degree in marketing, but I wasn't even quite sure like what that meant. I know I wanted to work in advertising in some capacity, but again, I wasn't exactly sure what all that looked like. But I got my first job in advertising at an agency. A recruiter reached out to me on a whim, looking for someone that had experience in doing a lot of reporting and a lot of entry-level tasks from a media perspective, so reporting, Excel spreadsheets, trafficking, and I was like, I could do that. And so I got into the interview with her, and she kind of helped push me through. So I got my first job out of college working at an agency, and I loved it. I loved media. I fell right into it. It made perfect sense to me. I love the number crunching, and I was specifically working in paid search, and I really had a knack for it. It just came very natural. I loved all parts of it, being able to measure it and kind of track it through. And then as I grew in my career in search, I was exposed to different media channels. And I realized I wanted to be more holistic. I wanted to be more broader in my reach and in my abilities. So I wanted to branch out and be more of a media strategist. And so I made some moves throughout my career that allowed me to do that. And so I became more holistic of a media practitioner, moved across different agencies, and really climbed the ladder from the ground up, from a media coordinator all the way up to a VP director at like my last agency, where I oversaw the media department for activation. And that led me to my role here at Carter's, where I oversee media strategy for all of our brands and our family of apparel brands for kids, and oversee the actual agency relationship day to day.
That's amazing. So you've obviously had a very rich career in both agency side and brand side.
Yeah.
Could you share a moment or define a time that truly had a major impact on your career?
Yeah, I would say when I made that decision to pivot out of search and to be more holistic, that was a big shift for me. I have been doing search for about 3 or 4 years, and I really wanted to again broaden my skill set and thinking like long term about what my career could look like and what the career path. I feel like that was the best case for me to really grow and be more valuable overall. So I pursued a job opportunity at Media Hub in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. I didn't know anyone that lived there, no family there, but I decided that that was be a good move for me. And so I took the offer and I moved to work at Media Hub, and it was the best decision I ever made in my career. I call it my power move because when I came out of that role, I was a full-fledged media strategist. I had done everything that you could think of, all different channels, linear, traditional, digital. I worked across B2B, B2C. I had worked on international accounts, local accounts, just every vertical. And it was just a really great boot camp for me as a media. I did ad ops. I did everything. So I felt like was really prepared and well suited to really grow in my career. That's what I call again my power move. And I feel like that changed my career trajectory significantly and got me to where I am today.
I love that, a power move. That's
Yeah.
kind of like this corporate baddie moment that you had.
Yeah.
And did you know that going there, that this was going to be a big opportunity for you to truly learn and grow and accelerate your career?
I knew it would be an opportunity for me to learn and grow. I didn't know that it would set me up and have the impact that it did have throughout the course of my career. Um, I just had an intuition and a gut feeling that this was the right move for me. If like the right time, I was about to say 3 or 4 years into my career. It was like the right time. And again, I didn't really have a mentor throughout my career up to the last couple of years. So it was very self-guided. So I was kind of going off of feeling and what I saw other people doing and looking ahead in my career path and what I wanted to become. And that's kind of what felt like the right decision for me. So I didn't know it would become the best decision that I could make. I'm thankful that I did.
Women's intuition.
Yeah.
And I love that you took control. And really, that's a risky move, right? You picked
Yeah.
yourself up and moved to Winston-Salem, which we both know is not quite as large as
It's
Atlanta.
not. So that was another thing. Yeah, it was a change of pace for sure. I grew up in Atlanta, so it's a big change of pace for me. Again, I didn't know anyone. I used to live in Charlotte as a kid, but that doesn't really count.
Yeah.
It was a change of pace for me. A much smaller city, and I just felt like it was the right move, and I'm glad that I did. So
That's great. I also, when I look back, recognize my power move. Gonna steal your words.
yeah,
I was living in Houston after college and moved up to New York City. And it was risky. I didn't know anyone, big city, and had to learn how to navigate that and the complexities of kind of doing that on my own with no support system. So I can relate. And I think that's amazing that you took
yeah,
charge. It builds a sense of confidence in you.
yeah, definitely. I felt more confident. I knew that I could do it, and I knew like that Media Hub was a great agency. I knew that I would be okay. Like I'm a very independent person. I always have been. My parents raised me to be very independent. I'm very much a self starter. I'm self motivated, so I don't really require a lot of like push to go do things. If something I want to do, I'll just go do it. I don't. I
Right.
don't really have a ton of fear from that perspective. But I've met some great people that I still work with throughout my career. I met someone that's been like one of my wing women on my teams over the past 10 or 12 years. I actually moved back to Atlanta when I got engaged, and I brought her with me. So I actually built some great relationships in that experience. So it definitely was paid for itself for sure.
That's great. So you were there for a few years, had
Mm-hmm.
the time of your life relative to your career, really kind of had some great growth. And now, was it the man that brought you
Yeah.
back to Atlanta? Okay. So
Oh,
tell us a little bit about your journey back and, how did you find your new role?
yeah. So he actually was my boyfriend when I moved. So I actually left, even though I was in a relationship, I still left Atlanta because I was prioritizing my career. And he was very supportive of that. And so we were in a long distance relationship while I was in North Carolina. And we got engaged. And he looked for a job in Charlotte and in other areas, but we both felt like long term, it was better for us to be in a bigger city. And it was closer to home. For me, it is home, close to his hometown of Nashville. So coming back to Atlanta just made the most sense for me. And so I sought out other opportunities that were again more holistic, more media strategic, and more leadership roles in Atlanta. And I got an opportunity to come back and work on AT&T business and lead their local mobility account here in Atlanta. So I jumped at that because it's AT&T. It's a phenomenal brand, and it was the perfect structure for me. It was a promotion, so I was able to take a step up in my career from a growth perspective. Build out a team in Atlanta for local to support that business. That's why I brought my wing woman with me to Atlanta to help with that, and I really grow on a really big blue chip client, a big brand.
No doubt. Shout out first to women that can have it all. You can have the job, the career, and the
Yeah.
husband. So kudos to you. So
And
you were working the AT&T business and
yep,
you stayed on that business for how long?
for a year, and then I actually moved over to work at Zenith Moxie to work on
Yeah.
Verizon. So I got stolen a little bit, given my telecom experience, and it was during the telecom war, so it was like a big thing. So to work on Verizon wireless.
Great. Okay. Moxie, fantastic agency. I think that's actually maybe where I met you
I
first.
think it is too. Yeah, I
It's
believe it is. Yeah.
it's been quite some time. And there amazing talent within the walls of Moxie. The culture there was also really great. You were there on Verizon, and then
Mhm.
later American Cancer Society.
Correct. Yeah. So I was on Verizon, and then they decided to kind of restructure the Verizon account and then redistribute the work to a different office in New York. And Zenith was also in Atlanta because they're all publicist agencies, or at the time, they're publicist agencies. And we were pitching some new business with American Cancer Society, looking for someone that had my background to really lead that account from a digital activation perspective. And I said, I'm interested in it. And so they put me on that account. We won the business, and I have to onboard and really lead that account really for a bulk of my time at Zenith. And it was a great account, working on nonprofit, but still having that performance marketing part of it to drive sales, drive revenue. There was a branding aspect of it. The clients were amazing. So I really enjoyed my time on ACS. That was a fun one because we always say in advertising, we're not saving lives here. We're not curing cancer, but on ACS, we actually were. Like it actually, that's literally the mission. Like every media dollar that's spent is a donation. So the need to be a good sort of the money and be responsible with the budget is almost like tenfold because you know that it's donations and like we are actually trying to cure cancer and save lives. So that line didn't work on ACS. That we are curing cancer. So
That is the truth.
yeah,
Okay, so after your time on that business, you then made the shift to brand side with
yeah.
Carter's.
I worked on a couple different other accounts at Zenith, Georgia Pacific, Ocean Spray. Again, it kind of runs the gamut. I've been very fortunate in my career to work across all these different brands and verticals, and I love that because I have so many things to pull from uh,
Mhm.
throughout that time. And so I decided to go. Actually went to Fitzco after Zenith, and I was there for about 2 years. And they were looking for someone to lead. So one of their biggest accounts was a retail client, and that had all the experience. They want someone that had programmatic, paid social, paid search, and media strategy. And I was like, that's me. Like that's literally the role I've been looking for. I've been working towards. And so I reached out to one of my friends that worked there. We had coffee, and the rest was history. So
Oh, and I love Fitzco, another great agency. I mean, you've really touched them all,
yeah,
and that's such an amazing career to have. 17 years of experience in this business is nothing to,
yeah,
shrug a shoulder at by any means. So, and the fact that you've spent all of it down here in the South is
yeah,
amazing. I love that because the community of Atlanta for advertising media is small, but it's grown a lot over the course of time, right? More, gosh, I've been here probably as long as you have. And I remember when it was just a few of us down here, and then Google came in and Twitter
yeah,
and all the other, big tech companies all have a presence here now, which is great because they're not necessarily just sending people from New York to touch base every once in a while. There's really this community that's building in this industry, which
yeah,
allows us to really truly know each other and invest each other over time and with each other's careers. So I've appreciated the opportunity to follow along and see your journey. And the last several years, you've been at Carter's
yeah,
and doing great things. Carter's is just a phenomenal brand. I'm a mom. Let's get real. Every mom shops
yeah.
at Carter's. Tell
Yeah.
us a little bit about that.
Yep. So I always knew I wanted to go brand side at some point. And I mean, we've known each other for a long time. The agency side is great. It's fun, but it definitely can wear and tear on you. And I had done it for like 15, 16 years. I mean, it's a hustle, right? And it's a lot. And I had my first daughter, my first child, right before I went to Fitzco. So, and I love Fitzco, but the Carter's job came around, and it was looking for someone that had, again, that full funnel experience across all different channels, and that was really performance marketing focused. And again, I felt like I was a great fit. And so I had a contact at Carter's that helped to get me inside and helped me get this opportunity. So I took it. And honestly, it has also been one of my power moves. I have loved my time here. I've grown so much as a marketer. I see myself as so much more than a media person now. I feel like I'm a marketer. My expertise is media, and it will always be like my heart. I love it, but I also know how to use marketing to drive business outcomes. I know how to use consumer insights, data and analytics, product, and all the pieces together to be more well-rounded and more of a strategist from a brand perspective. And I appreciate that growth that I've gotten over the past few years here.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. I mean, we're always looking to grow and challenge ourselves. I think
Yeah,
maybe shift from agency to brand is a challenge, that's completely unique in its own right. But for you to be able to really take what you have learned and then also bring in some of the insights that you've referenced and kind of the strategist side of the business to the forefront, sure that was it's been a great experience and learning experience for you. So let's talk about that. Like maybe through the lens of something you're proud of, right? You've worked a lot of campaigns. Carter's is doing quite a bit right now. Is there anything that rises to the top in terms of something that you're, really proud that you were able to work and touch?
You mean at Carter's or in my career as a
You know,
whole?
at Carter's, but then we'll go
Oh,
back to careers. Now you
oh
got me.
yeah, no.
Sounds like
So
something in the past too.
yeah. So one of the things about the role at Carter's, they again wanted it was a media role to help lead the agency and help really drive the strategy from a media perspective, full funnel, performance marketing, all of those things. But there was this other component from called multicultural marketing, and that is something that I had done before from a media perspective, but not necessarily from a brand perspective. And so being able to work on multicultural marketing has been so much fun, such a great experience for me. As a person of color myself, I have a heart for it. It's a different type of like passion that you really can't like create. It just kind of is in you. Being able to work on that from a brand perspective and what it means for a brand to resonate with different demographics, different groups of people. Being a person of the culture who really believes and loves Black culture and knows how to bring that to life from a brand perspective, being able to use my lived experiences to help grow the business and say, hey, this is actually a business case, but we have to make sure we're doing it the right way, and connecting with audiences in ways that are authentic and genuine has been a great passion of mine over the past few years. So I've enjoyed working on multicultural marketing, doing campaigns, doing creative, advertising, working with agencies to do shoots. That is something I love to do. It's my creative side coming out. I'm a numbers person. I'm a media girl, right? But I do love the creative side of me as well. And so being able to use that side also has been great.
Okay. I love to hear that. I actually saw, I think, a post you put on LinkedIn this morning about participating in some DEI lunch
Yeah,
workshops that have been going on. So let's talk
yeah.
a little bit about that.
Yeah, so this week I participated in a inclusion workshop with AAF, the Atlanta Ad Federation, and we were the panel of us, and we were talking about kind of the importance of inclusion in advertising and kind of how brands and agencies kind of come together to make sure we're showing inclusive representation and how we're connecting with different audiences throughout our work, and what that means from a business perspective.
Well, it sounds like you definitely have a lot to bring to the table with your recent experience at Carter's. So I'm sure that's been great conversation and a lot of fun as well for you to participate in. So now let's talk about the past because it sounded like you had something in the distant past that lit you
Oh
up.
yeah. So I was gonna say, whenever anyone asks me my favorite campaign I've ever done, is actually from way in the past, from like my first agency job. It was a campaign that I ran for NBA for the NBA Finals, and there was a lot of pressure on this campaign. I was told that we needed to really execute it flawlessly because the clients were. It was a little bit of a strained relationship. You know how it goes when you've been working with the client for a while, and they're kind of like pushing a lot. So they really wanted someone to lead it that was be able to drive optimal performance. The clients wanted to basically drive video views. They wanted cheap video views. We wanted to drive as high, many views as possible for as cheap as possible. So my goal was very clear: lower the cost per view and maximize the volume. And so I really worked so hard to optimize this campaign. At the time I had like 12 other accounts, and I was working crazy hours, but I was locked in on this campaign because I really wanted to deliver. And I love sports. It was a great campaign for me as well. And so I remember doing the wrap up report at the end of the campaign. I pulled a report to kind of just see how did cost per view trend throughout the campaign and how did video views trend. And it was like the perfect graph. Like, see, cost per view was like up and down to the left, and views were up to the right. And I was like, oh my gosh, like the perfect X, that never happens. And so I was really proud of myself to be able to show that graph. The clients loved seeing it. It was our opening slide in our presentation. They're like, this is perfect. This is amazing to be able to deliver those results through just hard work and like consistency. So yeah.
That's great. That's winning. I love those moments.
I love to win. We all love to win. Yeah.
Love to win. We call that the money slide on the
Yeah.
sales.
It was the money side for sure. Yes. Yeah.
That's great. So, your career, you have grown. We've talked about that, and you've experienced touching a lot of different sides of the business. But what I would love to like hear about is your leadership style because you've grown into leadership, and now, you know,
Yeah.
it would be amazing to understand. First of all, your leadership style, but then maybe a little bit around how you think that's evolved as your career has matured.
Yeah. I would say I'm definitely a heart led, empathetic leader. And I would say one of my favorite aspects of my career has been managing and mentoring people and helping to push people to grow. Like I said, I didn't have a mentor throughout my career. I would say in the past few years, I've begun to develop those, but I wasn't something that I had from day one. It was self-guided. I was like just figuring it out as I went. I wish I would have known the importance of having mentorship and having strong leaders kind of help guide your career. So I take a lot of pride in that with my teams. Even if I'm not like your main mentor, but from a day-to-day perspective as your manager, I see it as a dual role relationship. So for me, it's really about moving away from doing the work and being able to do the executional work that I've learned earlier on in my career to being able to set the vision, provide guidance, inspire and motivate my team to be their best while also being accountable. And I can get in the weeds with you if you want me to be able to give that direction, but also being able to pull up and set that vision for them and help guide them throughout their careers.
Yeah, that's great. I feel I operate very similarly. I think coaching and mentorship is the highlight of being a leader for me. It's really energizing for me. But we have so much experience in the industry, and to be able to pass that knowledge down, which really truly is kind of the birth of this podcast, is being able to
Yeah,
have these conversations and reach a wider audience, because they feel that, to your point, not many in the business today have mentorship.
yeah.
And so you need to get your advice somewhere, or you at least need to hear others and how they've navigated through complex environments or made pivots in their career that led to better outcomes, risk takers such as yourself, and what those bold moves truly have looked like. If you could give advice to this next generation that's stepping into our industry based on you looking back in your career and all that you've had to navigate, is there anything that rises to the top that you think you would share with them today?
Yeah, I would say advocate for yourself. I know that sounds very cliche, but it's a muscle that you have to learn how to flex. And if you don't flex it, you never get comfortable doing it. And
Mm.
that was something that I learned. Advocating for yourself and just doing it more often, as often as possible, is so important because it gets more comfortable the more you do it, and then it's like lap space. It's like practice essentially, and then one day it will pay off. You will get to where you want to go, and if it doesn't pay off, then you know what you need to do next. It's time to make another move. It's time to like reevaluate, but you just have enough information to inform your own like path forward. And just setting up for yourself is really important. So advocate for yourself. I would definitely say that. And also seeking out mentorship and sponsorships. And then I would say networking, but I feel like that sounds so transactional. So I don't think it's necessarily about just networking and you're trying to get ahead, but I think it's networking in a way that you can learn from people and take those learnings back and apply them to your life and to your career, whether it's every day or in the future. Everyone has different ways of doing things. And I've tried, as I've worked with people, whether it be people that are my peers or direct reports, even, or people who are above me, what is the thing that I can take from each person a little bit here and there that I can take with me that I will inspire me or kind of motivate me along the way. So,
That's great advice. That's what creates your own unique style, right?
yep.
The things
Yeah.
that really impact you are the things that you're likely to adopt and maybe iterate in your own leadership style. Advocacy, also great. I couldn't agree more. I would love to hear your thoughts on how does one approach advocacy for themselves that will be receptive, right? Like there's a lot of different ways to approach having conversations that are tough. I kind of look at them as difficult conversations, especially when I'm standing up for myself,
Yeah,
right?
which
It's
is crazy because like I'm standing up for myself. Like
right.
but it is difficult, but yes, it's difficult. But
I
yeah,
could stand up for you easily, but to stand up for yourself, that's a little bit more challenging. And so, how do you become comfortable with that? How do you practice that? And what's the type of tone that you
yeah.
take?
I think I try to be very self-aware, and I try to take. I'm a very thoughtful person. I'm actually an introvert, so I'm a very thoughtful person. I'm a very internal person. I'm always evaluating and observing, and kind of like replaying in my mind, like, okay, what do I want? What have I done? Is this justified? Is this rational? Am I missing something? So I kind of go through this process in my head. I probably overthink it a little bit, to be honest with you, in my head, and kind of lay out what it is that I feel like I'm missing or I'm not getting or I'm overlooked or whatever the case may be. to kind of lay out what my case is for myself, and do I have the points to kind of really support that and back it up. And once I have that, I think that makes it a lot easier to say, hey, yeah, this is valid, this is solid. Like, I want to talk about this and understand kind of where I sit, whether it be for a promotion, a raise, or more staff on your team, or whatever it is. Like, having your points laid out and being able to back them up, I think is really important. And I think being able to approach the conversation in a way that's like, hey, I was about this and I was evaluating XYZ, and this is what I see from where I sit. From where you sit, what are your thoughts? Because I want to understand, I want to make sure we're on the same page and make sure that I'm thinking about all of the items here.
That's great. Take control. I think, first of all, self-awareness, number one. I love that you said that, because there are a lot of people in the world that do not have self-awareness.
Yeah.
And I am grateful I do. And I think that's a very important kind of quality to have and possess. And then the other thing is that you said, which I think is important to the conversation of advocacy and approaching it, is the data.
Yep.
Have data to back your story up, right? And if you are truly doing well in your discipline and you're going for the promotion by example, have your bullet points, be prepared, lead the conversation. And then, of course, to your point, like, ask them, is there anything that you're seeing differently? Or are we on the same page? I think that's really great advice. What your thoughts are with the current media landscape and some of the trends that are rising to the top. Like, what are your thoughts and what gets you excited right now?
Yeah. The industry is so dynamic, which is, I like, it moves fast, and I've loved that part of it. But I think about where I started out in my career and doing just like simple paid search text ads. Like, this is before any of like the new things came along. The evolution of the industry has just been crazy. There was no TikTok. There was none of those things back in, there was, CTV was like maybe up and it was like, it's so long ago. It seems like we're in a whole different media world, and it changes so fast and it's so dynamic. But I've enjoyed the evolution of it, and it's keeping up with it. I think for me, what I think is interesting right now is this creator economy and the influencer economy that everyone is leaning on. They're so important. They drive so much influence with, of course, consumers, being able to help brands build that credibility. So I definitely think that there's so much value in that economy. But like, the contrarian in me is like, so what happens in a world, if we're looking far ahead, where the creator economy changes and brands need to reinforce their credibility through their own voice? Are we doing enough of that to keep that sustainability that's grown over the past few years? So like, I'm wondering and curious to see where the influencer economy goes the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, that's been interesting and top of mind for me too, because I've been reading a lot around how, well, let's just say, influencer economy and how this began was really about who had the largest, most scaled audience, right?
Yeah.
But now there's this shift to authentic influencers and really niche influencers. So it's interesting to see that world completely swing a 180. And I'm curious, to your point, like, where does it go next, right?
Yeah. That's my question. Yeah, where does it go next? Because I feel like the authenticity is, of course, to your point, is like the current focus. So then what happens in a world where what's true and what's curated is so blurry, that line is so blurry, you can't really understand what's authentic versus not. I think that's my question. And like, how do brands and as an industry, how do we kind of move on from that? So
yeah, that's hard, because it's still a pay for play, so to speak, medium, right? So how do they stay authentic to themselves? And that's where I think really the kind of rub off is for the brand, right? When they stay in their voice and their discipline and their focus with their content, versus kind of shifting to more represent a brand because they want to continue to represent that brand.
Yeah. I think it's about balance. And I think it's still on the brand, of course, to drive that, to reinforce that credibility through their own voice, so that they're able to sustain it over time. So
and it's a balance, right? It's you're not only one thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, well, let's talk about your corporate baddie moment as we come to a close. It's going to be hard because you already talked about two big power moves, and a corporate baddie moment can look like a power move, but I look at a corporate baddie moment as when you truly felt like you owned your power at work, when you were like, you walked into that room and you're like, yeah, I made it.
Yeah. So this one is hard because I feel like there's not just one. Like when I look back over the course of my career and I look back over the things that I've accomplished or the goals I've set for myself, it's not just one. I think it's the aggregate of all of them together that has been like, wow, I did all these things. Like I have arrived. That's kind of how I feel like I've arrived now, and I feel like it's hard for me because like I said, I'm an introvert, and I
Mhm.
feel like so often there's always someone else in the room or on the team that's louder, more boisterous, more outgoing, and so it's like I feel like sometimes I have been overlooked throughout my career, or I have been kind of underestimated. But I know, like looking, I have so much grit. I'm so ambitious, and I'm self motivated, and I also know that I'm talented. And for me, that's what makes me a badass. All those things combined together, I think, make me pretty unstoppable if I use it the right way. And so that is the totality of who I am, is what drives me to be a corporate baddie.
I totally agree. You are a corporate baddie and you're in your moment now. And listen, you don't have to be the loudest in the room because
Yeah.
I can promise you down here and probably everywhere, they know your name. And
Yes.
so
Thank you.
you've done a great job. You are absolutely a powerhouse. And I've enjoyed the conversation and getting to just understand, you and your career and some of the moves that you made that made you are today. So thank you for sharing that with us.
Thank you for having me. It's been great to kind of go down and kind of reflect on my own career journey. I feel like so often we are in the minutia of day to day. You forget kind of what you've accomplished. So it's been nice to kind of take a moment to reflect back and say, hey, yeah, I've done a lot, and I should be really proud of myself. And I deserve all that. It's good is coming to me. It has not been easy, right? Nothing's easy. It's not been linear, and I didn't know if I spent enough time talking about the downs, because there definitely were a lot of those ups and downs. But even through all the mistakes and the uncertainty and the unknowns, like it's about powering through and like staying focused on what you want to accomplish and knowing that you can do it, and that everyone has a little bit of badass in them. So